Right, Liverpool, Aston Villa. Aston Villa came from behind to beat Liverpool 2-1 in what could prove to be a season-saving win. How impressed were we with Villa's fight in this game, Rach? What a game it was.
I think for me, like the way in which they won it could be important for them mentally in the last 4 games. Because I think Liverpool were good in the first half, could have scored a couple of goals. And then for Aston Villa to go behind in the manner that they did due to a mistake that led to a penalty, like there's so many things there where you could look at the Aston Villa of the last couple of weeks and not be surprised if they dropped their heads. And I think the fact that they came out in the second half, were better in the second half, were creating chances in the second half, got their goal, lovely goal as well from open play, which I think is really important.
Definitely.
And then got a bit of luck at the end, a bit of a rub of the green. You know, they were putting pressure on the Liverpool goal and they earned their luck a little bit. And I think sometimes you have, I mean, you tell me when you're in a rut and you just feel like nothing's going your way, you can't even get a rub of the green, you know, every 50-50 seems to go the other way. It can get to you mentally, I imagine. So to get a little bit of luck, to get the 3 points and win it, come back and win it in the manner they did could be very important. Like, what's it like if you're ever, I don't know if maybe you haven't been, but stuck in that kind of rut where you just feel like we just need one win. We need one goal just to get us out of it.
Oh, 100%. I think I've been in those situations with Palace and Spurs. We went through, really difficult periods. And I think it does get you down. It does wear you down. But then the mentality then makes you perform worse because you're already in this kind of mindset of, well, this game isn't going to go my way. We're not going to get points out of this one. We were doing really well, but actually this season's a bit of a write-off. And I think especially when you get to the latter end of the season as well, you start to think, okay, well, like, let's just knock this one on the head and go again fresh for next season. But I think obviously with Aston Villa, they didn't have that comfort blanket of being like, okay, well, we've got enough points that we're safe. They weren't safe up until, potentially this weekend. So, yeah, I think it was really nice to kind of see those moments of luck. I was a little bit disheartened by the first goal because I was thinking, oh, it's just going to go exactly the same way. It was such a weird situation.
Was it Missy Bowe-Kearns that it ricocheted off? She was standing there going, why did you hit the ball at me like 100 miles an hour from 2 feet away?
It was absolutely baffling. But then to have all three of them chasing back, and it kind of felt like it was going to go a bit car crash mentality. And then also Rachel Laws then, it was a difficult game. It was a very topsy-turvy game, but I think it probably was the momentum builder that Aston Villa now need to kind of see out the rest of the season and give themselves a little bit of hope. Like, they've got that 4-point gap now, which I think is super, super important. But
I think as well, with their run-in compared to, say, Crystal Palace, they've got a much better run-in than Palace do. Palace have to face Chelsea and Man City in their final 4 games.
Yep.
And I think Aston Villa have Tottenham, they have... Arsenal, okay, not an easy game necessarily. They have West Ham and they have Brighton, so they have more teams in and around them where they can look at that and say, we need to get points here. Whereas for Palace, looking at a Chelsea and a Man City, they are some difficult games. So yeah, it does feel like it just... And there, Lucy Parker posted before the game, which I think was really interesting. She said, yes, we're in a tough time, we're struggling, it's hard and it's heavy, but we are fighting every day. It's impossible to explain how it feels if you're not in it. Carrying it, working through it every single day. There are no excuses for our performances. The season has been in no way what we expected and demanded of ourselves and our ability. This has been the hardest thing to take. We are a very good team with incredibly talented players. It is far from over and we will continue to fight to turn this around. It's hard to find the right words, but I feel we owe it to you. I can only say sorry and please stick with us. So whether that was like a team thing where they kind of got together, took some accountability and decided they were going to really go for it and really try and turn things around. Maybe that's the result we saw in that Liverpool game.
Well, definitely. I think I definitely saw some heart as well from key players there. I mean, Kirsty Hansen, she was on the pitch for like 2 minutes and then scored
yeah,
an absolutely incredible goal. Like the angle on that was ridiculous. So I think that as well. And
a lovely ball over the top from Missy Bowe, who had a great game.
100%. I think there was some definitely sort of positive moments in that. I mean, this was Natalie Arroyo's first win as Villa manager since she joined in January. Villa had lost their last 5 games. Obviously now 4 points between them and Crystal Palace, who are now bottom. Palace beaten 4-0 by Arsenal at the weekend. The Opta supercomputer reckons Villa have a 96.07 chance of staying up.
That's quite high.
And Palace
have they watched the WSL?
And Palace have a 95.97% chance, so effectively a 96% chance of going down. I mean, I rate the Opta supercomputer. I think it's obviously a very, amazing piece of kit, but it's pretty much telling us what we already know in this scenario, really.
Yes, but I also think a lot of the time the games in the middle of the table are quite hard to predict. So yes, you'd look at Aston Villa's run in and say they should pick up points, but the way this league has been going, particularly anyone below fourth place, like, don't really seem to want points. The gap between fourth and fifth just seems to be growing every day. Somehow Brighton are still in fifth because no one else seems to want to pick up points at times. So that's quite an impressive stat, because I do think it's really difficult to predict. But I think with the run in that Palace have, that's kind of the killer.
I think, it's obviously really super difficult to come up into the WSL for your first season. It's equally difficult to also face kind of a managerial transition at a really weird and interesting time. Also a little bit hamstrung with the budget, and have not really found, despite the fact they've actually played really super well in some of the games that they've had, and obviously picked up wins and also picked up a draw. I do think it does feel like Palace's cards are marked, and I think it would be the first time that a club, a new entrant to the WSL, would go back down into the Championship in the first season.
Oh, that's a good stat.
As far as I'm aware.
I mean, it's a sad stat.
Which is like a really not good thing to see. And I think it kind of places a little bit of emphasis on the kind of investment and the realistic expectations of club owners when you have a team that is transitioning up into the WSL. It's like you've really got to put your money where your mouth is, because the quality of the league is now that you're not going to get away with a light transition of bringing in 5 or 6, 7 players like from lower league teams. Like you have to hire decent bloody talent to be able to compete at this level, and I think Palace have been stung by that a little bit.
Yeah, but the idea that there's a difference between staying in the WSL and competing with the top 4.
For sure.
I don't think enough clubs are doing enough to stay in the WSL. Some are doing just enough to stay in the WSL.
100%.
So, and I know we talk about big budgets that some of the top teams have, but these clubs can afford to spend more money. Let's talk about Aston Villa very quickly. One thing I was surprised at was Jordan Nobbs on the bench.
Okay.
And she didn't come off the bench in that game, which I was surprised at. And I remember talking FA Cup quarterfinals and the team that was put out by Natalia as well, and the players that were left on the bench. I think it was Rachel Daly, Kirsty Hansen, Jordan Nobbs. I'm intrigued by that. I'm intrigued by Jordan Nobbs for me is a game changer.
For sure.
She has the kind of experience you need in these fights where you've got someone who can turn a game on its head. So
why do you think that decision was made?
I don't know. And initially I thought, okay, she hasn't started. And then I looked through the thing. I was like, oh no, she actually hasn't come on at all. And it's great to see, for example, a Lucy Staniforth coming back and starting, because she's been out for a long time, and she had a really good opportunity as well on goal. But players like that, I'm surprised aren't coming off the bench.
Interesting.
Yeah, maybe I'll ask Natalia at the next press conference.
Definitely do. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what she does with that decision next week. Pending.
Because then, I guess you approach games differently. I remember when we spoke about the quarterfinal, and I thought maybe it was a case of being more defensively solid in the first half, keep within touching distance of Man City for 60 minutes, and then throw on your goal scorers, your game changers, and maybe that was the situation. So perhaps it's a case of approaching essentially a relegation type battle match where you're absolutely needing points versus when you feel comfortable in how you might approach a game.
Well, we will wait and see for this weekend and see what happens there. But definitely question Natalia and let us know, Rach. Yeah,
will do.
Thank you, mate. Let's turn a little bit to Liverpool's performance then. Substitute Jenna Clark scored a late own goal. This was Liverpool's 3rd own goal in 2 games. Not great for her. It felt like she'd come on looking to make an impact and made an impact, but in the wrong direction. Super, super unfortunate. She was at the near post. Rachel Law's just behind her, and it kind of just crept. It kind of almost got off her a shin or a big toe or something like that, and crept into the near post, and obviously sent Rachel Law's. She wasn't prepared for the kind of deflection. So yeah, I mean that was really, really unfortunate. I don't think they necessarily had a bad performance, but you're wincing.
No,
you're wincing.
I'm just thinking it's the inconsistency again, which was kind of the issue before Matt Beard left, which would be frustrating because one moment they can look defensively solid and really sharp up front, and maybe other moments they don't. And I think when you think about that Manchester United game where they were pinned back for so long and were so efficient with the opportunities they created and really grew into the game, I guess you're like, where was that performance? or how they played against Arsenal. Now, I think the Arsenal game different. Arsenal dominated in terms of opportunities and possession, etc. But the discipline within the game was very different. So yeah, it's just that inconsistency piece again.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when you look at the last 5 games there, so 2 wins and 3 losses, they sit in 6 with 21 points, 1 point just below Brighton. So that a win for them could have propelled them back up into 5th place, and then that would have been pretty much an amazing.
It's mad, isn't it? Like 5th place is so up for grabs.
100%. I mean, like when you look at what between Brighton and Tottenham in 9th, there's only 4 points in it. Anyone could finish
Everton, West Ham.
Yeah, I mean,
Liverpool.
even Leicester to some extent on 16. I mean, it's not it's not completely outlandish, but yeah, I mean, it's quite a spicy middle table. Well, last week, Amber Whiteley spoke of the club's aim for a 5th place finish. How realistic do we think this still is? I mean, given...
it's entirely realistic. I mean, like we said, there's 4 or 5 teams that could still end up 5th. You know, it's mad because Brighton have won 1 game in 2025.
Yep.
Still 5th.
That is what. But they I mean, the shift that they put in last year, 2024, was unbelievable.
Oh, absolutely. And look, they played really well against Manchester City. It was a really tight game. But I feel like Brighton keep opening the door and going, anyone? Does anyone want 5th? And everyone's like, no, you're grand, you hang on to it for a little bit longer. Like, I just want to know who's going to end up there. If Brighton finish 5th, that's incredible.
100%.
But equally, literally 4 or 5 teams could end up there.
It's so interesting to see, though, like a strong foundation at the start of the year pretty much secures your safety for most of the season if you do well enough.
Look at Chelsea, and I'm not saying they don't have a strong foundation now, but you know the importance of some of the games they've won means that now this side of the season, if they slip up and have a draw, it doesn't really matter.
100%. I mean, Brighton have won 6 games out of 18, and that's essentially what it takes to kind of almost save yourself, I suppose. 6 wins. That's not.
But look at the difference between 5th and 4th. It's incredible. They've won 6. City have won 11.
Yeah.
Crazy.
The top 4 have definitely broken away. There's a 13-point gap now between 4th and 5th place. It kind of feels like every single part of that it feels like top 4, middle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I'd say, and then bottom 2.
And it's interesting because I do think it sounds great. Like, it sounds mad when you look at the table, but I do think those middle pack are so much more dangerous than they have been in the past in terms of nicking points off top teams.
100%.
I asked Nick Cushing about it. Like, you know, I was speaking to him in the tunnel pre-match and I was like, have you noticed much difference since coming back? And he's like, he said basically, like, understandably, he hasn't really been here long enough to really interrogate that. But he was like, I've definitely noticed the gap between the top 4 and the rest has closed.
Yeah.
And I said, you're not guaranteed a result really anywhere. And he was like, exactly. Like, so it's funny though to say that now, and we look at the table and there's such a difference between 4th and 5th, because last season, you know, it was a 6 point. Well, you had Liverpool in 4th, 9 points behind 3rd place Arsenal, and Man United were 6 points. It was just it was closer, significantly closer. But and I think it's been closer again in the past. 10 points was probably the worst back in 22-23 between Villa and City when they were on their kind of disruptive run. But this season we don't really have a disruptor. Like, yes, Brighton are doing well and they've gotten points off top teams, but there's no one nipping at anyone in 4th place's heels.
No, for sure.